A human mechanic found a secret under his starship's reservoir. The galaxy would not forget the starship Vigilant drifted silently in the far reaches of known space, far beyond the crowded trade lanes and bright lights of the core worlds. Its hull was scratched and patched in places, and its engines hummed a tired song that spoke of decades of service. On board, no one noticed the small human mechanic moving through the dim corridors, carrying tools and a worn oil rag. His name was Jalen, and in a galaxy full of powerful aliens, massive corporations, and deadly mercenary crews, he was nothing more than a cog in the ship's aging machine. No one paid much attention to him, except when something broke, and no one else could fix it. Jalen didn't mind. He liked being unnoticed. It let him work in peace. Today, he was in the lower maintenance deck, crouched beneath the starship's coolant reservoir. The reservoir was ancient, dented, and leaking a faint green mist that smelled faintly of ozone. He had drained it dozens of times before, replacing old fluid with fresh coolant. Routine maintenance. Simple, boring. But Jalen had learned long ago that even boring jobs could hide surprises. He removed the old reservoir carefully, wiping his hands on the rag. That's when something unusual caught his eye. A faint seam along the bottom edge of the reservoir didn't match the rest of the ship's construction. It looked almost deliberate. A panel hidden beneath years of grime and repair work. Curiosity stirred, something that had saved him more than once in his life. He pried it gently. There was a small compartment sealed tight and covered in symbols Jalen didn't recognize. His fingers traced the edges, feeling a subtle vibration, as if the compartment itself were alive. His pulse quickened. No maintenance manual ever mentioned this. Taking a deep breath, Jalen unsealed the panel. Inside lay a small device no larger than a human fist. It was metallic yet organic in some way, with faintly glowing lines etched across its surface. The glow pulsed slowly, almost like a heartbeat. Jalen stared, uncertain what to do. Scanners didn't respond. Alien tools didn't work. The device seemed selective, and strangely, it responded to him. When he touched it, the lines brightened, and a low hum filled the air. A hum that resonated deep in his chest. He withdrew his hand slowly, heart pounding. This wasn't just old technology. It was something else. Something alive, or something designed to seem alive. Jalen's mind raced. He knew the galaxy was full of relics and abandoned tech, but this was different. It felt personal. It felt like it had been waiting. Great, he muttered, wiping his palms on his jumpsuit. Just another thing I wasn't supposed to find. Still, he couldn't stop staring. He realized that the starship itself seemed to respond. The engines hummed smoother. The lights flickered in time with the device's pulsing glow. Even the coolant reservoir, when replaced, fit more snugly than before, as if it had been designed to return to its place perfectly after centuries of neglect. Jalen's curiosity overcame caution. He picked up his tools and began to examine the device carefully. Strange symbols appeared along its surface, almost like a language, but not quite. Some reacted when he pressed them lightly. Others seemed to shift when he looked away. For hours, he worked quietly, unaware that this simple act of curiosity had triggered something far larger than himself. Far above him, in sectors of space he had never seen, faint signals flickered in the void, old systems awakening after centuries of silence. Meanwhile, life on the ship continued as usual. The alien crew rarely noticed Jalen except to grumble when meals were late or repairs slowed their schedule. But that night, the ship itself seemed different. The hum of the engines carried a note that was not just mechanical. It felt bare. Jalen paused and leaned back against the wall, taking a deep breath. "What in the galaxy?" he whispered to himself. The faint glow of the device reflected in his wide eyes. He didn't notice the small shimmer across the viewport, a ripple of energy that passed undetected by the naked eye. Somewhere in the depths of space, ancient systems had registered a disturbance. Jalen had awakened something. Night on the Vigilant passed in quiet tension. Jalen tried to sleep in his cramped quarters, but the device's glow seemed to seep into his mind. In dreams, he saw flashes, cities he had never visited, alien ships he had never known, and humans he didn't recognize, standing bravely against impossible odds. Each vision pulsed in time with the device. Each whispered one truth. This was bigger than him. Morning came, and with it the first sign that the Starship had changed. As Jalen climbed into the maintenance bay, he noticed the engines already running smoother than they had in years. Temperatures stabilized without adjustments. Even the old coolant reservoir had no leaks, as if it had been renewed by some unseen hand. He shook his head. "I fixed it," he muttered. I didn't do anything new." It was then that the Vigilance communication console beeped. A single transmission blinked on the screen, unmarked and unsourced. Jalen hesitated before pressing the playback. A deep, distorted voice spoke in a language he didn't know, yet somehow he understood. "The key has been found. Prepare or be forgotten." Jalen froze. The message ended as suddenly as it began, leaving only a low hum in the room. His hands trembled as he realized the truth. He was no longer just a mechanic on a forgotten starship. He had stumbled into something that the galaxy had long hidden, something that had been waiting for a human touch. For the first time in his life, he felt both awe and fear. He looked at the device, its soft glow like a heartbeat calling him forward. It didn't just want him to touch it. It wanted him to understand it. But Jalen wasn't sure he could. All he knew was that the galaxy was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable. And now, somewhere out there, powerful eyes were watching. The moment he had found the device, the rules had changed. He tucked the device into a secure compartment beneath the reservoir, careful not to damage it. The starship seemed to shiver under his hands, as if acknowledging its new secret. Jalen stepped back and wiped sweat from his brow. "This changes everything," he whispered to himself. The alien crew entered the maintenance bay, yawning and complaining about delayed schedules. Jalen smiled faintly. They had no idea what had happened. The galaxy itself had shifted, and they were blissfully unaware. As the Vigilant prepared to leave the edge of the system, Jalen stood at the viewport. Stars stretched endlessly before him, familiar, yet now strange. He felt a new weight on his shoulders, a responsibility he had never asked for and could never ignore. Beneath the reservoir, hidden from sight, the device pulsed once more. Its faint glow matched the rhythm of Jalen's heartbeat. The galaxy would not forget the moment a human mechanic had found what had been hidden for eons. And Jalen, unaware of the storms that would follow, took his first step into a future that would challenge not just him, but all of humanity. For the first time, he understood the truth that had been whispered across space for centuries. Humans were not weak, not disposable. They were unpredictable. They endured. And sometimes, just sometimes, they were the only ones who could unlock the impossible. Jalen woke to the gentle hum of the Vigilance engines. But today, it felt different. Smoother, more confident. Even the ship's lights flickered with a rhythm that matched his heartbeat. He rubbed his eyes and shook off the sleep, still unsure whether it was the excitement or the fear that kept him awake. He made his way to the maintenance bay, where the device lay hidden beneath the reservoir. The glow pulsed faintly, almost as if it had sensed his presence before he even approached. Jalen hesitated, feeling the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. "All right," he muttered. "Let's see what you really want." He touched the device. This time, instead of just pulsing, it emitted a low vibration that traveled through his fingertips and up his arm. He could feel the ship responding too. The engines adjusted, the coolant system balanced itself perfectly, and even the artificial gravity seemed steadier. It was as if the Vigilant was alive, listening and waiting for him to understand it. But Jalen wasn't alone for long. The Vigilant sensors picked up a signal approaching the outer system. He frowned. Most travelers avoided this sector, fearing the rogue asteroid fields and unstable jump points. But this ship was different. Its signature was careful, precise, calculated. The comms console blinked. A holographic display flickered to life, showing the insignia of an alien trade guild Jalen recognized. They were traders, smugglers, and occasionally pirates. But today, they were inspectors. Human vessel. The alien captain's voice crackled over the speakers, deep and deliberate. Identify yourself and prepare for inspection. Jalen's stomach twisted. He had seen these guilds before. They were efficient, ruthless, and suspicious of humans. But they weren't hostile, unless you gave them a reason to be. He took a deep breath and tapped the comms. I'm Jalen, mechanic of the Vigilant. No cargo or contraband, just routine travel. The aliens ignored him at first, their scanners sweeping the ship. Then, something happened. The device beneath the reservoir pulsed, and the scanners faltered. Their instruments beeped and whined, unable to penetrate the hidden compartment. The captain's tone shifted, cautious now. What is this? Your systems are incompatible with our scanners. Open all compartments immediately. Jalen's pulse quickened. He knew he couldn't reveal the device. Not yet. Not until he understood it himself. He tried to stall. I can show you the engines, the coolant system, everything's standard. But the aliens were persistent. Their ships moved closer, surrounding the Vigilant. Open it, human! Or we will. Jalen clenched his fists. He had no weapons, no allies. Only his tools and a ship that seemed to listen. And then the impossible happened. The device reacted. A sudden pulse shot through the ship. Lights blazed and the engines roared, not violently, but powerfully. The sensors of the alien ships went haywire. Their scanners couldn't read the ship. Their weapon systems froze. And for the first time, Jalen felt something he had never experienced. Control. He didn't know how, but the ship obeyed him instinctively. The coolant valves adjusted automatically. The engines pushed to maximum output without burning a single component. Even the shields seemed to flare to life, invisible but impenetrable. The alien fleet hesitated. They had faced many challenges, but a human vessel that reacted before they could act was something new, something dangerous. Jalen swallowed hard. I don't know what's happening, he whispered. But inside he felt a strange calm. The ship was guiding him, teaching him how to survive. Hours passed in tense silence. The alien fleet finally backed off, confused and wary. Jalen watched them retreat, his hands still trembling. He had survived his first encounter. Barely. That night, Jalen sat alone in the cockpit, staring at the stars. He thought about the device, about the message he had received the day before. Prepare or be forgotten. He realized the truth slowly, like ice melting. This was not just a relic. It was a test, something left by beings older than the galaxy itself, designed to measure species, to see if they were capable of something more. And somehow the device had chosen him. He remembered the visions from the night before, the humans standing bravely against impossible odds. Perhaps it was not just a test of strength or intelligence. Perhaps it was a test of adaptability, of instinct, of survival. Jalen leaned back in his chair, exhaustion and excitement mixing together. He was just a mechanic. But maybe, just maybe, being human was enough. The following days brought more strange occurrences. Systems that were once unpredictable now ran perfectly. The ship seemed to anticipate asteroid fields, adjusting its trajectory before Jalen even noticed. Navigation errors disappeared. Even the smallest repairs corrected themselves, guided by some unseen hand. Word of the Vigilant began to spread, quietly at first. Traders whispered about the human mechanic whose ship never failed, who could evade danger effortlessly. Rumors reached mercenaries and bounty hunters. A few ambitious commanders began plotting to capture the ship, unaware that doing so would trigger consequences they could not predict. One morning, the Vigilant received another unmarked transmission. The message was short, almost cryptic. The key awakens. They notice. Move carefully. Jalen stared at the screen. He didn't know who sent it. He didn't know what it meant. But he understood one thing clearly. The galaxy was starting to pay attention. He tried to warn himself, "Be careful, don't attract attention." But the truth was simple. He had already attracted attention. And the device beneath the reservoir had its own agenda, one that could not be ignored. Days later, the first official inspection arrived, not from traders, but from a Galactic Authority fleet. Massive ships with glowing hulls and weapons designed to destroy entire planets approached. They had picked up anomalies in the vigilance systems and were coming to investigate. Jalen felt a surge of fear, but also determination. He was not a fighter, but he had the vigilant, and he had the device. And for the first time he understood something profound. Humans were unpredictable. That unpredictability was his strength. When the inspectors boarded, scanners failed. Their instruments couldn't read the hidden compartment. The device reacted again, pulsing faster, almost as if it were aware of the threat. The inspectors tried to pry it loose, but their tools failed. Jalen realized what he had been missing. The device did not just respond to humans. It responded to him. It trusted him, in a way the galaxy's most advanced technology could not. And in that trust, Jalen found confidence. "I don't know what this is," he said aloud, addressing no one in particular, "but I won't let anyone take it from us." The inspectors left, baffled and wary. Word would spread that the human ship was protected by unknown technology. Bounties would be placed. Factions would emerge. Some would seek to destroy him, others to control him. And through it all, Jalen began to understand something crucial. This was bigger than the Vigilant, bigger than him. Bigger than the galaxy's politics, or trade routes, or wars. The device beneath the reservoir was a gift or a responsibility. It was a test that only humans could pass, a challenge that required courage, ingenuity, and endurance. And in the quiet hum of the Vigilant, Jalen felt the first stirrings of hope. Perhaps humans were not just survivors. Perhaps humans were something more. As the Vigilant drifted through the uncharted space, Jalen looked at the stars with new eyes. Every shadow, every distant sun, every alien signal was now part of a larger puzzle, and somehow he knew that whatever came next, he would not face it alone. Beneath the reservoir, hidden and pulsing, the device waited. It was alive in its own way. It had awakened with him, and together, human and machine, they were about to be noticed by a galaxy that had long forgotten how unpredictable humanity could be. The galaxy was watching now. And Jalen, the human mechanic, would not run. Jalen had never thought of himself as a hero. Mechanics didn't become legends. They fixed things. They repaired engines. They replaced old circuits. But now, as the Vigilant drifted through a cluster of dead star systems, Jalen realized he was something more. A human with a starship that was alive in ways he could barely understand. For days, he had studied the device hidden beneath the reservoir. It pulsed like a heartbeat, glowing faintly whenever he approached. He had tried every tool, every method he knew, but nothing worked, except instinct. His hands moved over the device in ways he didn't fully control, almost as if the ship itself guided him. Then, it happened. A soft click, almost imperceptible, echoed through the maintenance bay. The device glowed brighter than ever. Symbols he had only seen flickering now appeared clearly, almost like a map. Lines connected the ship's core systems, forming circuits and pathways that were impossible to trace. And then he understood. The device was not a weapon. It was a survival system, a living map of adaptation. It could detect threats before they happened. It could repair systems instinctively. It could anticipate and counter dangers faster than any alien technology. Jalen's mind raced. He wasn't just holding a machine. He was holding the key to human survival in a galaxy that didn't believe humans could matter. His thoughts were interrupted by an alert. Sensors picked up a fleet approaching fast, not just a patrol but a coordinated attack. Word had spread. The galaxy's powerful factions had noticed the Vigilant and the human who commanded it. Jalen stood at the cockpit, heart pounding. The fleet was enormous. Sleek, heavily armed ships designed to crush anything in their path. He had no fleet, no weapons, only the Vigilant, and the device. He took a deep breath. "All right," he muttered. "Let's see what humans can really do." The device pulsed. The ship responded. The engines roared to life with a power that felt unnatural for a ship of its size. Shields flared, invisible yet unbreakable. The ship's system seemed to think ahead of Jalen, correcting and optimizing with every passing second. The alien fleet opened fire. Lasers cut through space, massive projectiles streaking toward the Vigilant. The weapons hit, but the shields absorbed them. Systems Jalen hadn't touched repaired themselves instantly. The engines shifted to avoid the next attack before the attackers even aimed. Jalen realized the truth. The Vigilant didn't just survive attacks. It learned from them. Every move the aliens made was anticipated and countered. It was as if the ship could see through time, predicting actions and responding faster than the enemy could think. Hours passed, like minutes. The battle raged across the star system. The alien fleet was powerful, organized and relentless, but the Vigilant moved like a single living organism. And then something remarkable happened. Jalen began improvising. He had no weapons, no army, but he had human ingenuity. He remembered an old maintenance trick, rerouting power through the coolant lines to boost engine thrust temporarily. He did it, and the ship responded instantly, darting through the alien formation like a comet. The alien ships tried to follow, but the Vigilant was unpredictable. It twisted, turned, accelerated, and vanished in ways no standard ship could. The device pulsed, as if approving of his choices, guiding his instincts. For the first time, Jalen smiled. Humans were not strong in the way the galaxy expected. They were not invincible warriors with massive fleets. They were clever. They adapted. They endured. One by one, the alien ships began to retreat. They had underestimated the combination of human instinct and the living technology of the Vigilant. Reports would later call it impossible, a single human ship outmaneuvering an entire fleet. But Jalen knew the truth. It wasn't impossible. It was human. After the battle, silence returned to the star system. The Vigilant hovered among the drifting debris of destroyed enemy drones and damaged fighters. Jalen's hands were still trembling from the adrenaline, but his mind was sharp. He had survived. He had proven something, not just to the galaxy but to himself. The device pulsed one last time, brighter than ever. A holographic projection emerged above the maintenance bay, showing images of ancient civilizations, star systems, and beings long gone. Jalen recognized a pattern. These precursors had tested species across the galaxy, leaving behind systems like the one he had found. They measured adaptability, intelligence, and the ability to survive under pressure. And now, it was clear why humans had been overlooked. Not because they were weak, but because they were unpredictable. Unpredictable, yes, but capable of endurance and creativity the precursors could not foresee. Jalen stared at the hologram. He realized he had been chosen not for strength, not for strategy, but for human instinct. The ability to improvise, to endure, to survive against impossible odds. The galaxy had forgotten this. The precursors had known it. And now, so would everyone else. Days passed. Word of the Vigilant's impossible survival spread across star systems. Traders, mercenaries, even galactic authorities whispered stories. A human starship that could not be captured. A mechanic who could outthink entire fleets. A human who refused to die. Other humans began to rally. Small colonies, scattered crews, even independent pilots reached out secretly, offering assistance, supplies, and information. They had seen the story and realized one thing. Humans could survive when no one else could. Jalen began to understand his role. He was not a warrior, not a conqueror. He was a spark, a symbol. And the Vigilant was the first proof that humanity was not weak. Then the next challenge appeared. Another fleet. This time not just to capture, but to destroy. Larger, stronger, more organized. They had learned from the last encounter. They would not underestimate him again. Jalen studied the device. He realized it did not just react. It could teach him. It could amplify human instinct. He felt a connection, a bond, as if the ship and device were extensions of himself. The battle began. The aliens attacked with precision, predicting his maneuvers. Lasers cut across space, missiles streaked toward the ship, and drones swarmed like deadly insects. Jalen remained calm. The device pulsed in his hands, almost like a heartbeat, guiding his decisions. He remembered a trick he had learned years ago, rerouting power through redundant circuits to create a temporary energy surge. He did it instinctively. The ship shuddered, then darted through the formation, weaving between missiles. Shields flared automatically, repairing damage as it happened. The alien fleet was stunned. They had never seen a ship respond like this, move like this, survive like this. It was more than technology. It was human intuition amplified by something far beyond their understanding. By the end of the engagement, the enemy fleet was in disarray. Retreating, damaged, confused. They had underestimated humans. They had underestimated a single mechanic with a ship that had learned to think, react, and survive. Jalen exhaled, feeling the weight of what had happened. He looked at the device, now calm and pulsing softly. He realized something important. This was not just survival. This was a statement. Humanity would not be ignored. Humanity would not be forgotten. He returned to the cockpit, staring at the stars. He thought of all the humans scattered across the galaxy, small, seemingly insignificant, always struggling against impossible odds. And he knew this. They were not weak. They were adaptable. They endured. They survived. And now they had a spark to inspire them. The vigilant hum beneath him, a living testament to human ingenuity. The galaxy had tried to write humans off, to underestimate them, to forget them. But Jalen and his ship had proven something else. Humans were not predictable. They were not weak. They endured, they adapted, and they thrived. And the galaxy would never forget the day a human mechanic stood against impossible odds and won. The Vigilant glided silently through the dark reaches of a forgotten star system. Jalen stood at the cockpit, his hands resting lightly on the controls, eyes fixed on the stars. He could feel the pulse of the device beneath the reservoir, steady and alive. It had been weeks since the last attack, yet he knew this calm was only temporary. The galaxy was watching now. And the galaxy would not forget. Every decision he had made since discovering the device had led to this moment. He had survived fleets, outsmarted alien mercenaries, and inspired scattered humans across space. But the galaxy was vast, and there were powers he could not yet see. Powers determined to claim the technology for themselves, or destroy it. A warning flashed across the ship's sensors. A fleet unlike any he had encountered before emerged from the void. Ships larger than planets, armed with weapons designed to crush worlds, approached with terrifying precision. This was no random attack. This was an organized effort, a show of force meant to end him. Jalen took a deep breath. His hands moved over the controls, but it was the device beneath the reservoir that guided him now. Every pulse, every hum, every glow gave him instinctive knowledge. The Vigilant was more than a ship. It was alive, and together, human and machine, they would face the impossible. The first wave of enemy fire hit. Massive energy beams tore through space, cutting a path toward the Vigilant. But the shields flared instantly, absorbing the blasts without strain. The ship twisted and turned, moving in ways no standard vessel could, predicting the trajectory of every attack. Jalen's heart pounded, but he remained calm. The device pulsed with him almost like a heartbeat, matching his instinct, amplifying his human intuition. For the first time he realized the truth. Humans survived not by power, but by adaptability. He made a choice. Instead of hiding or retreating, he would fight, not with weapons, but with human ingenuity. He rerouted energy through the ship's ancient engines, creating bursts of thrust that sent the Vigilant darting unpredictably through the enemy formation. The alien ships fired blindly, unable to anticipate his moves. The device guided him further. It mapped weak points in enemy shields, suggested evasive maneuvers, and even repaired the ship automatically as damage occurred. Jalen moved as if he were part of the ship, and the ship moved as if it were part of him. Together, they became a single, unstoppable entity. Hours passed like minutes. The enemy fleet realized they could not outgun him, but they underestimated human unpredictability. Jalen noticed their pattern, too rigid, too predictable. He exploited it, maneuvering the Vigilant into positions the aliens could not anticipate. One by one, their ships were disabled, forced to retreat, or destroyed. Amid the chaos, Jalen saw something strange. A fragment of the device's holographic projection appeared, showing the remnants of the precursors who had created it. Their message was clear. This technology was not meant for domination. It was meant for survival. It had chosen humans not to conquer, but to endure. Jalen realized what he had to do. The galaxy would continue to hunt him, to seek the device, to destroy what they did not understand. But the precursors had given him the answer. The device was not a weapon. It was a legacy. And legacies were not meant to be hoarded. He made a decision. Using the device, he dispersed its core systems across the galaxy. Not into one ship, one colony, or one government, but into all humans who could survive and adapt. It would be hidden in ships, settlements, and machines, accessible only to those with human intuition. The galaxy could not take it from them because it was not just technology, it was human instinct itself. As he initiated the dispersal, the Vigilant pulsed with energy. The fleet attacking him faltered, confused by the sudden wave of signals dispersing into the void. Alien ships tried to track him, but the technology was no longer a single target. It had become part of humanity. Jalen leaned back in the cockpit, exhausted but resolute. He had survived, yes, but more importantly, he had ensured humanity's survival. The galaxy would not forget the day a human mechanic discovered something meant to test his species, and passed. The alien fleet retreated, leaving damaged ships behind as a warning. Across distant systems, whispers began. Humans were unpredictable. Humans were clever. Humans survived when all else failed. Stories spread not of a warrior or a conqueror, but of a mechanic with a starship that could not be destroyed. Jalen returned to his daily work aboard the Vigilant, fixing engines, maintaining systems, and quietly observing the stars. He remained a mechanic, yet now he was also a symbol. Other humans reached out, inspired by his survival and ingenuity. They began to understand what he had learned. The galaxy underestimated humanity at its own risk. The device beneath the reservoir pulsed one final time, then quieted. Its purpose had been fulfilled. Its knowledge had been shared, hidden in plain sight, waiting for humans to use their instincts to find it. Jalen smiled faintly. He did not need glory. He did not need power. All he needed was to survive, and in doing so, he had changed the galaxy. Legends began to grow. Traders spoke of the human whose ship moved like a living thing. Mercenaries whispered of the mechanic who survived fleets without weapons. Scholars debated the meaning of the precursor's technology, and across it all, humans quietly thrived, their survival instincts sharpened, their adaptability proven. Jalen knew the galaxy would try again. Powers would rise, fleets would come, and the device would be sought. But humanity had learned a new truth. Survival depended not on might, not on numbers, but on ingenuity, instinct, and courage. And humans had all three in abundance. As he repaired a worn engine plate, he looked out at the stars, vast and silent. Somewhere in the void, alien eyes watched, frustrated and fearful. They had discovered the spark of human endurance, and they could never erase it. The Vigilant hummed beneath him, alive, loyal, and ever adapting. Jalen understood now that it had been waiting for a human all along, and that human had passed the test. Humanity was no longer underestimated. Humanity would not be ignored. The galaxy would remember. And Jalen, the human mechanic who had found a secret beneath his starship's reservoir, returned to his work with a quiet pride. He did not seek fame or fortune. He had done something far greater. He had ensured that humans would endure, adapt, and survive, no matter what the galaxy threw at them. Stars stretched endlessly beyond the viewport, bright and infinite. Somewhere among them, the precursor's legacy continued, but now it lived in humanity itself. And Jalen smiled, knowing that sometimes the smallest spark, the instinct of one human, was enough to change the fate of the stars.
The galaxy had tried to forget humanity.
It would never succeed.